Hey everybody, thank you for joining me on Dynamo Chats. Today we have Alex Wilson from KPF and Mostafa El Ayoubi. I said that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Every time you get it
Yes.
right.
And he's actually with Data Shapes Orchestra. I don't know whether one of them takes preference or if you say it in that order, you just say Data Shapes, what it might be, but both of those things are awesome. Everybody should know about them. We're going to talk about those things, but also about a few other things in terms of computation and really how Dynamo can sometimes just really be a pain. People like us, people like us on this chat, and probably a lot of you listening to this chat love Dynamo. You love computation and you want to share it, right? But how can we share it? Let's talk through that. How can we give our consultants our scripts? How can we give everybody our scripts? The whole industry, right? We should be in the mindset of sharing. How do you do it, Alex? How do you do it, Mustafa?
Um, I don't know if you want to go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, sure. I guess like addressing some of the issues, I think like while Dynamo has its limitations and things like that, one thing that we are very lucky to have is such a great community. Um, which kind of does come back to the sharing. And like even just today, I was looking for, some help on creating area boundaries, and I found a post that Mustafa actually made in 2015 where someone they posted saying, "Hey, I'm a brand new Dynamo user. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I need to do this thing." And Mustafa replied, and that was, I mean, a long time ago. So I think part of one of the great things about sharing is like the knowledge sharing that happens in the forums and the communities. So in some ways, even though the product can be pretty restrictive, the people, I think, really make it such a vibrant community and why part of the reason why everyone loves it.
Well, and I will say that Autodesk has maybe even put the onus on us, right? By providing an amazing, forum system, whether it's for Revit, Dynamo, whatever it might be, um, as well as giving me us ability to share packages freely through Dynamo, relatively easy, right? But how do we get there, right? I think is the bigger question. Like we as individual users kind of have to figure all of these bits and pieces out. So, somebody like you, Alex, at your KPF, if you create a script internally, now all of these questions come about in your head. Not necessarily even just like, how do I edit this script so that everybody can use it, right? So that like, somebody who's in the workplace discipline can use it versus somebody who's using it for a facade design, right?
Mhm.
But also, what do they need on their computer for this to work? How do they even
Yeah.
get this to their computer? How does this get to their C drive? Is it on a network somewhere that everybody has to navigate to? How does Dynamo know to navigate to that place that's not the default place? Right? Like we as BIM managers now have to start thinking about how all this infrastructure works, which isn't necessarily what I want to do with my time and what I can't necessarily expect the IT staff to do either, because it's so different than everything else and the way that everything else is set up, right?
Yeah, very true. And sometimes I think that it might be inherent to what Dynamo is, how there's always one gazillion ways of doing anything, of performing any task, of going from point A to point B. So it's a very, I mean, that type of software maybe is hard to put into I don't know, to put into the traditional tutorial type of teaching, and also having a knowledge base that's very structured. Uh, Dynamo scripts can get messy, but they get the job done. And maybe that is the beginning of the explanation of how this unfolds into this complexity in terms of management and deployment. And um, so yeah, there's this amazing, I mean, there's something beautiful in that messiness, if that's a word. But yeah, it can become frustrating at some point, and you have to deal with it um, because it's so powerful. It's so, I mean, I don't know if I'm probably among the biggest Dynamo lovers internationally. I love it so much. It has helped me perform my job better. It has helped me help people. So it's just been a great experience all over. The only point where it does not seem to have, how can I say, the only point where you feel like you're hitting a wall is when you try and get that type of content to larger audiences and try to scale that usage. And yeah, I guess that's probably my biggest frustration. You know, there's actually, I feel like there has been a logic from the data shapes package where it was mostly about creating UIs for, you know, every user to be able to understand how to interact with the definition. And it just got even farther with this larger orchestra project. I think the goal is to try and get that easier to handle and share with everyone. Yeah.
A lot of the time, I feel like with the conversations that I have with people, the way that they get to where they are, whether it's through, like you're saying, with Data Shapes and Orchestra, or Asan with PyRevit, and now with McNeil, and you know John with Monocle and things like that, it's because of the limitations that they face, right? And then they explore these opportunities, these unique opportunities, which are almost impossible to find because once again, this infrastructure is so unique. And then they bloom that into something really great. And I think, as I mentioned, Data Shapes and Orchestra are perfect examples of this because Data Shapes, which everybody should have installed as a package on their Dynamo if they don't already, allows Dynamo Player to have a lot more functionality, which Dynamo Player just does not have. Whether that's through additional selection inputs, right? Having the ability to select multiple things through a list, or even just throwing a GIF in there to make it look cool, right? Those types of little things like that make it so much more user friendly. Can you talk a little bit about that and the way that those types of things kind of blossomed into what they are?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think I remember the first time I discovered it was actually a hack, you know, it was I think like Revit 2018.1. It was the first days of Dynamo Player. And you know, the first time I tried to use it, well, there was no input at all at the time. And it just like it felt crazy, right? Because all you were able to do was to hit something, and it was a huge limitation. So I tried to use a couple of the selection nodes, and it turned out that one of John Pearson's nodes at the time, it was Rhythm. It was a Python node that lets you select stuff, and that was triggered by the Dynamo player. So you know, it was just like a random finding, and I started building from there. So that's yeah, it was a problem, a huge opportunity with the Dynamo player letting you run stuff without having to open Dynamo, which was already a big win because people, I mean, most regular architects or engineers, they don't like that interface. They don't even want to have to deal with it. So it was great to be able to play, but there was that need for an interface. And yeah, as you said, very, I mean, I 100% agree. It was an opportunity to improve things, and that's how it started. And then it blossomed into this user interface thing. Lots of feedback from the community, lots of sharing. That's what got it where it is now. It was, you know, not just my work. It was what people have brought. There has also been because data shapes is open source, so people can participate. Andreas Diekmann, who created a Clockwork and many amazing other things for Dynamo and the Dynamo community, has participated. He has improved data shapes, added some things that he needed, and he just suggested them, and they were included. So yeah, it's been something that truly blossomed thanks to the community, thanks to the feedback, thanks to all these type of things.
Well, you also really brought up a great point, and even to kind of step back a little bit into this conversation of when we want to teach Dynamo. I find, and hopefully you guys have watched, and I'm talking to the community, hopefully you guys watched some of my videos on DanamoShorts where I try to teach Dynamo, and I'll put the emphasis on try. Because I feel like every time I try to talk about something, I have to take 5 steps back,
Right.
right? Like, get a parameter by name just to search for that node.
Yeah.
You almost have to like speak to the API, like element dot get parameter. It's like or just like talking through like code blocks and then what design script is. It's like, what is that? I don't even know. Like, I can't even fully give an explanation
No
on
one
that.
knows what design script is.
So it's it makes it not only challenging to use and challenging to understand as an individual user, but then to teach it makes it 10 times more difficult, because these little
Yeah.
things that have just become muscle memory to you that you don't even really truly have logic for, it's just the way you do it. It's like, just don't ask questions, just do it this way is almost kind of how you have to teach it, right?
Yeah.
But thank goodness for things like data shapes, for things like Monocle, which had a chat with John Pearson on Monocle as well. So, things like that make Dynamo so much more user friendly, really. I mean, it almost to the point of like, you can't use it without those types of things, right? Alex, I'm sure you can agree.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons data shapes is so great is because of the, like the stress levels when there are two types of Dynamo users. There are people who want to automate things, and there are the people who enjoy like digging around and creating. And I think, part of our jobs is to open up Dynamo to the users who don't use it every day, but find themselves doing repetitive tasks. And if you send them a script, even regardless of how beautifully annotated it is and color coordinated and all of that stuff, when you open Dynamo and you see all those buttons and wires, like there's a level of stress that comes with that, especially when it's given to you by someone else, when you're like, I don't want to break this, I don't know what's going to happen, but creating like a user interface that's very simple. It just opens up, it tells you what to do. You can click on a link and it will take you to documentation. There is step-by-step instructions. You can filter elements. So if you need to select all the doors, you can just click and it will only select doors. Very little room for error, and just a very comfortable interface, I think, opens it up to people, to just get their feet wet. And then from there, if that's all they do, that's fine, that's great. If they want to take it, see what's under the hood, then they can kind of start experimenting more. So I think just making a nice, clean interface, allowing for documentation, and then, just having it all there, like as a nice package, is like really useful for people who just need to get something done and don't want to open Dynamo and then start freaking out with different inputs in different areas and things like that.
Absolutely. Because once again, not only do I have all of these types of questions in my head as a, Dynamo creator, someone who's creating scripts for hopefully the office to use, right? In hopes that all people can use it. But now I even have to think about nomenclature. Like, how does somebody find this in the long list of Dynamo player scripts because they can't navigate to individual folders without, having that as like a huge explanation point of like the folder icon up here. You can, and I suppose you could integrate that into your workflow, but sheesh, it just makes it so complicated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And you
agree.
just
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and you just need to remove those barriers to entry, or people will just give up and go back to manually renaming every single sheet in the project or something like that. People's
That's what
people's people's ability to do mindless tasks is truly impressive, like repetitive mindless tasks.
truly breaks my heart, when you automate something and someone
Totally.
decides, it's a decision they make. They decide not to use that, but do it by hand because they decide that it's easier to do it by hand, and that is just like, that's what makes you want to be like, no, no, like it's okay, very simple. Look, you click here. Yeah, this is what gets you to build that kind of stuff.
I am right there with you. I feel like it's a daily struggle for me. And not even that, but just to like even make people aware that these types of things exist, right? And I think that's also something that Orchestra allows for. That's something that I get relatively from common from my Dynamo users is how do I know what this script does or how to use this script, right? And I said, oh, okay, well, just search for it over there. Right? It's like, now go to that place and search for the name of the script and hopefully you'll find something, right? So I think this is a great point for us to maybe for you to show us some of these amazing features that Orchestra has really kind of eliminated some of the problems that Dynamo just has inherently.
Totally.
A couple of things about Orchestra. So one that is not very well known and that I'd like to share here is that, there's a nice chunk of it that's free, absolutely free for everyone to download and use as, as a replacement, for example, for the Dynamo player. And actually the free part is everything that's local. So everything that's on this tab here, this one is disabled because you need an account to access cloud-based content and documentation and package management and all. So it gets much more powerful, of course, with the cloud part, and that one you need an account for. But the free part lets you, point at local stuff. So by local, I mean everything that's on your computer or mapped, any mapped drive that you may have. You can point at it. You get the folder structure, which we've been talking about. That part, yeah, it's a big question mark for me why the Dynamo player doesn't have it yet. But yeah, we get that here. And there's one thing that it did not have, but has now, which is pretty neat, is automated input forms. So, if you want to go crazy with your UI, you have to use data shapes and build things. You can drop in the GIFs and the list views and the data tables, everything. You can make it pretty nice. But if you just want to use your scripts that you already use through the Dynamo player and that you have all the out-of-the-box input nodes set up for, all you have to do is play them through the Dynamo, through the orchestra player, the local or the online player, and it will look something like this. Just launching it here. Form here is generated automatically by the out-of-the-box input nodes of Dynamo. So you don't even have to worry about that, if you want to use your definitions to orchestra. And again, this is free. So yeah, you enter your values. Another thing that's pretty neat that is actually better than data shapes is you can apply, these settings and look at what it's created. So here it's just creating this random, piece of wall. And yeah, you can make modifications. And this is a drop-down node for like an out-of-the-box drop-down node. You hit apply, it's going to apply the changes, as you can see. And when you're done with this is pretty similar to a Revit window where you can apply or say OK, where it's going to apply and close. Then here it is. So yeah, all of this part is free. You can also have quick accesses, so buttons on your ribbon from the free part of Dynamo, of Orchestra. So if you right-click a definition and want to add it to your ribbon, all it takes is right-clicking on it and pressing the command, and it's going to appear there. And you can also customize these icons through the settings here and have something that's going to look more user-friendly. So that was just to tell a little about the free part of Orchestra. And then it gets more serious when you log in and have the cloud part activated.
And so does every user have a unique sign-on? Is it through their Autodesk? Can it be?
That's a great question. I get that asked a lot. So far, yeah, we do have our own licensing system that, where everyone gets their own accounts. So it doesn't have an Orchestra, it doesn't have to be an Orchestra email, it could be your own email. So you can attribute a license to any email, but it's still not connected to any single sign-on type of technology. But yeah, now we're logged in and we have all these buttons that have appeared because those are quick accesses that have been deployed through the cloud. So that's powerful as well, I believe, because you access your users' ribbons directly and in a live manner. So if if they click something here, you can be sure that it's going to be pointing at the latest version of whatever you've deployed for them. All of this here is content that's cloud-based, and I think what helps understand how powerful the cloud-based stuff is when you go and check out the settings of one of your workspaces. That's where you get to see that you are the manager of who gets access to what, which level of access they get. So if they're a user or an administrator, that prevents people from altering content without necessarily being very at ease with it. There's the compatibility thing where you get to filter what users are going to see based on the version of the software they're in. So this is a way to reduce error. And this, I think, echoes to what Alex was saying earlier. You want to reduce that window of possible error, as you want to make it as little as possible. And this is the type of thing that's going to help you do that. And another very, very powerful thing is this here. So the packages. And when you associate a set of packages with a workspace, well, that means that when someone plays a definition through the cloud part of Orchestra, they are going to have them played with the right set of packages. Every run is performed with the right set of packages, and that's the I think that's what even got Orchestra to be started. That was the first blunder trying to deploy stuff to a large audience, and it got even tougher when I was at some point trying to deploy things to for my company. There were lots of people inside the company, and you had some form of control over what you got to deploy for them. But when you start deploying things for, as a contractor, when you send things to clients, then it gets really out of hand. You're sending stuff by email or you're putting it in a Dropbox, and it just gets nightmarish. So this helps a lot with that. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I think especially packages, I think all of us have been in situations where, you've shared a script with someone and they have the dot point release of a package, one before yours or one after, and then all the nodes disappear. Or, something changes in the package as it gets a big point upgrade, and then that node no longer exists. And so you're trying to, standardize these things and roll them out, and then you give it to someone and it doesn't work. And that can be, just frustrating for them and frustrating for you. So I think that the cloud hosting of the packages is so phenomenal and so useful, especially with work from home. I mean, work from home's really turned, like Mostafa was saying, deploying things within your company versus being a consultant. At this point, every person's house is an office. You can't, redirect things. It's harder to deploy software. So hosting it on the cloud, and syncing the packages between the cloud and having a single source of truth for all your packages is really phenomenal in its ability to just have one place and not. And your job then becomes going back to doing Dynamo and creating fun scripts and developing workflows instead of wondering why one of your designers has 13.2 and you have 13.1, but you asked it to be deployed to everybody and it wasn't. And I think that's where the power is. It just takes all that annoyance, which everybody who's used Dynamo knows very well, and you just forget about it. I don't even think about it anymore. It's
so
the
great to
nodes
hear.
disappearing is so much fun, right?
Yeah.
When you open up Dynamo and it's literally just the node connections, like you
Yeah.
can't see any nodes.
How do they even do
It's
that?
like the blue screen of Dynamo, right?
Yep.
Like what even just happened, and like discovering what even that could possibly be is literally needle in the haystack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like what you said, Alex, about how you get back to doing to creating content. As the Dynamo guy of your firm, when you try and deploy your content, the deployment part becomes maybe half of your time. It's half of what you do is dealing with the issues, people calling you, telling you it doesn't work, and you trying to make sure that everything goes okay. And it's just that, and it takes the pleasure out of, of the Dynamo experience. And I do agree with you that with a platform like Orchestra, well, you can put your focus back on creating the content, and you get back to the fun part of things, which is very important, because that's why we all love it. Yeah, maybe just like a couple more things about how you can communicate better information to your users and make the experience more enjoyable for them, is how you can attach any type of information to any definition. They get to know who, when, how, why, the keywords. The search can be performed, using the keywords. You can associate documentation. You can associate hyperlinks to Danamo YouTube videos. You can do pretty much, everything you want in terms of documentation here. It gets pretty powerful. And another thing is, when you set a description for a definition, and this all is coming from user feedback. So I think that's, Orchestra at first. So it was this strong foundation, but the user feedback has made it pretty cool. You get the description on the tooltips, you get all these types of little nifty things that are really improving the overall experience. So yeah, I truly believe that Dynamo, or the Dynamo world was in need of something like that.
Yeah, totally. Like after you annotate your scripts and you write your description and things like that, they still have to open that script to see what it does. Dana brought that up before. It's like, how do you get the content to the people and make sure they have the right one? If you have an intranet article or a SharePoint article, and then you have to go to the player, and then you have to find the same thing, and it's like, did you misclick on the wrong thing because it was level by floors, or was it level by grids or something like that? So just having it all in one and then being able to hover over and see what it does before it actually runs is a pretty nifty feature.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if something is written on the definition itself, like on a text note, yeah, you can assume that most people are not going to, it's not going to get to them, to your users. And so yeah, that's what it tries to do for the user. Now it also tries to do stuff for the creators. Going back to that notion, which I really like. I think I'm going to. It's giving me some things to think about, how you can focus back on the fun part of Dynamo, and not struggling too much with where you put your files and how you manage them and keep track of them. There's this view extension here right inside Dynamo, and this one here is for the creator, right? So everything that's in Revit is mostly for users, because it's for people who just want to run stuff. Now, as the creator, you also get your orchestra, and you get some quick access to your storage. You're in a definition, right? So I know that I'm at version 3 right now. So this is on the platform. It was opened from the cloud. If I make a modification to it, you can, so again, just going to do something very random, and I'm gonna remove this big chunk of code here, and I don't know, add some things. Var equals hello there. Okay, we save that, and we save that to the cloud. So this is what's going to actually deploy it. And then after closing the definition and reopening it, it seemed to have done the trick, right? So it did move up to version 4, and now I can compare it against older versions. So the list is here. Version 3 is the one that was there right before. And the comparison is going to give you something like that. This was modified, and you get to right-click it and see the text diff between both versions. So this is all of what's been deleted, and this is the little piece of code that I've added. But yeah, this is
Oh
what
my
I've
gosh,
been
I
trying to
really want to
show.
see an elaborate change. Like, I want to see a bunch of deleted nodes. I want to see modified and added nodes.
Oh yeah,
Oh my gosh.
um,
One thing I think that's very cool about Orchestra is it's still in its infancy, right? So it's been around 2 years. It came out of beta about 5 months ago.
yep.
Um, And so there's so much potential. Like I think the skeleton is super strong. Like syncing cloud packages, amazing. Tracking versions, amazing. Admin levels and sharing with shortcuts and like descriptions without having to open scripts, creating default shortcuts for all your user bases. So whenever they log on and you add a new, annotation script, it's just there on the dash right there for them to click. Don't have to worry about packages. It's ease of access. And then, like the growth of creating editors and like the timeline, it's progressed so far in such a short amount of time. It's only going to get better. And then once it does, and it just starts to encompass more and more things. We're at KPF where we have a few different people who have different ways of working. So we have a guy who works in C and someone who works in Python. And I'm primarily Dynamo. And what we decided is that we were just going to do everything through Orchestra and make Orchestra like the single platform. So we have our KPF, we're developing our KPF toolbar with a bunch of things on it, but even the C and the Python guy just do C and Python inside Dynamo, so we can do it inside Orchestra and have like a single platform so that people just go to that one place to look and they're not like, oh, I need the reference plane height script, so I've got to go to the PyRevit toolbar, or I need the glass area curtain wall script, so I have to go to Dynamo, or I need, this and this. We just decided like we're going to go all through Orchestra, and then just people just branch out once they get inside. So you just have that single place to go, which is, I think, part of the ease of use and just getting people to access to the scripts and not having to dig around for them. Because we originally were using the player, and the player, we couldn't get it to pass correctly on new images because the Dynamo player INI file doesn't exist unless you open Dynamo. And if you don't open Dynamo because it's a brand new computer, you can't override that file. So that was one of our original problems when we were looking at, especially with work from home, a lot of laptops going out. So that was another reason why Orchestra was great, because you just don't even need to worry about it. Yeah, I'm a pretty big Orchestra fanboy, you might have noticed. So
And man, I mean, yeah, it's music to my ears, man. That's really, really, really awesome to hear. And
yeah.
it also wants to make, makes you want to keep pushing, That's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
any final thoughts? Any inspiring words? Anything to the industry that you want to share? Put you on the spot there.
I guess what was said at the beginning, about sharing, I think, yeah, that's probably the most important thing around, about everything we've been saying so far. This is about sharing content, also making that sharing work, because it's not always easy. It's sharing that got to this also. So I would strongly urge everyone to share as much as they can.
And don't be afraid to ask questions, right? Don't
Definitely.
suffer in silence. That's what we hate the worst.
Yeah.
Hate the most. Gosh, it's dreadful.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
post on the forum, even if you get a snarky response. It's okay.
You
We
won't
all
get
get
it.
snarky responses. You're not a true member of the forum if you haven't gotten a snarky response.
Yeah, I think the forum is one of the best things about Dynamo, without a doubt. The forum and the community and the
And
access to like the people who spend their time on there. It's such a wealth of knowledge. I spend a lot of time on there. I'm more of a lurker, to be completely honest with you. I don't comment that much. I just steal other people, like look at other people's posts and then try and figure out what I need from there. But it's amazing.
yeah, I have a friend who's like that. It's everyone's has their own style, but yeah, for sure. I myself, one of the things that I regret is not spending as much time on the forum as I used to anymore. And it was one of my New Year's resolutions this year to spend more time on the forum. Never really got to get to that really.
The year's
But,
not over.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
not. It's
Not
not.
even
And
halfway.
yeah, well, this is the motivation I needed. See you on the show.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And thank you all for watching Dynamo Chats.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thank you.
us.